what we would put on ICSMS is the outcome of the action.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say you couldn't put more information in ICSMS, but to keep the burdens down, if we're already having to record the interaction with the economic operator on one system, then we'll just put the economic operator that's voluntarily agreed to do X, Y, Z.
And so the value for you specifically in that
scenario... And of
scenario...
course, actually, another authority looking at that, all they want to know is this product that's been found to be unsafe has been modified in this way to make it safer, or has been taken off the market, or has been rebuilt and redesigned so that future versions are not suffering from those same faults. They don't need to know the detail of the discussions you've had with the economic operator, they just need to know the outcome.
Sure.
So they need to know the important things of life. If the economic operator says, I won't supply any more products, I put that on ICSMS, because then if somebody else finds they are, they'll know that I need to know, because they may have broken a commitment and that might up the ante in terms of action. But they don't need to know all the detail of the discussion.
Have you ever had a case that you have opened on ICSMS that has been progressed by another state, party, someone else?
There are a number of cases where the baton has been passed by agreement between one party and another. Usually that's because you've got to a point where, say, an importer elsewhere in Europe placed the product on the European market, and it's then being bought by a UK user, maybe directly or maybe via a distributor, but the distributor has very limited duties. So the person who placed it on the market is the one who's the duty holder under the directive. He's placed it on the market, he should have fulfilled the obligations. If they're in another member state, I can't enforce the law against that distributor. So if I exhaust the voluntary lines of inquiry, trying to get him to do the decent, honest thing, I might then, and this has happened on a few occasions, particularly with our Dutch colleagues, because it's only one short stretch of water and there's quite a bit of machinery that works its way from the Netherlands into East Anglia, particularly on the agricultural side. There are occasions where it's worked both ways. Either they've asked us or we've asked them, will you take this case over? Will you actually go and sort them out? Because we have reached the end of the voluntary action, and so it requires someone to sort that out. Now, of course, that will only deal with their duty as a manufacturer or supplier. It won't deal with the products in use. That comes down to the labour inspectorate, the regulatory function, the main regulatory function of HSE. If the product is in use, if say the supplier's passed information to the users, but the users ignore it, we can still use the workplace legislation to enforce safety at the workplace. But of course, most users, if they're told there's a problem, will then do something. It's the fact that they don't know there's a problem means they won't do anything.
So last question on this, in what proportion of cases that you deal with, finger in the air, is there a degree of interaction with another MSA, be that abroad or in the UK?
I think we're probably looking at the 5% area. A lot of cases, you find an issue, we write to the economic operator, we copy in the authority in the other member state, and of course they know there's an ICSMS record because we tell them that's the number. And the economic operator in that other member state says, okay, I will modify I'll deal with the problem, I will communicate with the manufacturer, we'll resolve that. You get a resolution, there's no need to involve the other authority, the matter's been dealt with voluntarily, so it's effective, it's efficient, and there's no need to involve and use excess resources. It's usually only where people are ignoring you, choosing not to comply or argue with you about compliance, that you then have to actually bring in other resources and maybe ask for other interactions. You don't want, it is best, if you found the problem, it's best you deal with it because you understand the problem better than anybody else as well. If you've not seen the machine, if the Dutch have looked at a problem with an English machine but they've seen it in the Netherlands, unless I go and look at the machine, I am not really going to understand it as well as they will. And if they can resolve it without me having to look at it, then that's much more effective and efficient.
I feel like we could probably talk for another 2 hours, but Ed, were there other things that you think, just because we're, I guess, pretty much wrapped up,